What's the future of Micro Four Thirds look like in 2023 and beyond? Let's talk about that. Hey, thanks for joining me. I've been thinking a little bit lately about what the camera industry is going to look like in a few years. You know, will Micro Four Thirds still be a thing? Is it going to hang in there? Is it going to go? There's a lot of questions. Before we get started, if you would, please click on the like and subscribe buttons and let's talk about this. I think there's a lot of people these days that are kind of concerned about the future of the the digital camera market, especially interchangeable lens cameras. Markets have declined and people aren't buying as many, and I know there's a lot of concern about that, but I think there's some good things going on too. So, for those people that shoot Micro Four Thirds, they may seem a little bit more concerned. Obviously Micro Four Thirds doesn't have the market share that full frame seems to be getting, and so those people that shoot like Olympus or Panasonic Micro Four Thirds cameras may be a bit concerned. But I think there's some, like I say, there's some good things I think to think about. For Olympus, I think OM Digital Solutions, whatever the name is now, Olympus, I think the new owners they seem to be committed to bringing out new models, new lenses, moving forward with the platform. There doesn't seem to be any notion that they're putting the brakes on. They seem to be moving right ahead. So I think that's a good thing. I think also, it's the camera market stabilizing a little bit. I know that there's a big push right now. A lot of people are really moving towards full frame cameras, and the Micro Four Thirds community, I guess, will always face a certain amount of angst against them in the camera community. I'm not sure why that is. Historically, if you look back at the history of film cameras, when 35mm came out, when Oscar Barnack first created the Leica and they started to produce those, everyone said that, the film's too small, that nobody will ever use that. It's too grainy, it doesn't have enough, resolution, it's just not going to work. And, back then, a 4x5 camera was kind of a standard size camera. But even that was what was called a quarter plate camera. A full plate camera was an 8x10. What we call medium format cameras were amateur cameras, little roll film cameras. Those were amateur cameras by and large. And so when 35mm came out, it faced all the same kind of derision that Micro Four Thirds seems to face now. And yet over time, 35mm certainly came into its own. Now, today, I think that full frame digital cameras have kind of taken the place of in terms of professional use, of the place that medium format cameras used to use or used to take. So if you were in the 70s, 80s, 90s, if you were a wedding photographer, a portrait photographer, you probably shot a medium format camera, probably something in 645 format, like a Mamiya 645, maybe a Bronica ETRS series camera, maybe a Hasselblad, shooting either 645 backs or 2 1/4 square backs. And that's what a lot of professional photographers used. And if you did product photography or something like that, you probably shot 4x5. And your sports photographers and your wildlife photographers, your photojournalists, they use 35mm because it was the most portable platform, and you could move quickly and shoot fast with it, and it had all kinds of features like motor drives and things that were conducive to that use. So today, your full frame cameras have kind of taken the place of your medium format cameras in terms of professional use. If you're shooting weddings or portraits, even product photography, you're probably shooting a full frame digital camera. Even wildlife photographers are doing that, but a lot of wildlife photographers are discovering that Micro Four Thirds system means you can carry a lot less gear and a lot less space, a lot less weight if you're having to pack gear into the backcountry to do wildlife photography. Macro photography seems to, Micro Four Thirds seems to have a really big share of macro photography. Again, if you're shooting pictures of small things like insects and whatever, a small camera gets in there easier, it's lighter, it's easier to position, and I think that Micro Four Thirds has a real strong place there. So these camera systems are finding their niche, but I think it's a mistake to try to compare your Micro Four Thirds cameras to full frame systems. It's just like it makes no sense to compare 35mm film cameras to medium format film cameras in terms of image quality and that sort of thing. It's just apples and oranges. The full frame camera got a bigger sensor, it's got bigger pixels, it's going to have more dynamic range. The medium format cameras, like I say, and now the full frame cameras kind of occupy the same space. The Micro Four Thirds cameras, however, do have their place, and I think that you'll continue to see even professional use of those Micro Four Thirds professional cameras in certain spaces. And again, just the lenses are smaller and lighter and less to carry, and there's all that. But for the majority of us that are amateur photographers, amateur photographers for a long time, 35mm was where most of them were. A few shot medium format or large format. The large format people are still doing large format stuff, whether it's digital or film. They're just, the people that like to do the kind of work like Ansel Adams did are not going to go to anything smaller image sensor wise, because you just can't duplicate the look of a piece of film that's 4 by 5 inches or bigger, 8 by 10 or whatever. So where does the amateur photographer go? And I think Micro Four Thirds is a great system for people that do photography for fun. I think it's got a lot of pluses. It's compact, it's lightweight, it costs less, and because it costs less and the cameras are very feature rich, there's more value for your money. So I think that there will continue to be a certain demand for Micro Four Thirds. And if you're one of those people that just wants the ultimate in image quality, you may not be a pro, but you just absolutely can't live with anything but the highest quality image, then you should buy a full frame camera. But there's pluses and minuses. You get one thing, you give something else up. And I love when we talk about comparing things, I like to sometimes take things to their extremes to really see what the differences are. So hold on just a second. Now, I don't have a 4 by 5 digital camera. If I did, it probably wouldn't look anything like this. This is an old Burke and James press camera. The kind of camera that Ouija used back in the day. So, but let's say I had a 4 by 5 digital back for this, and I want to go on vacation, and I want to take pictures of my family and of the places I'm going. Am I going to drag this around? It'll have great image quality. If I have a 4 by 5 digital sensor on this, the images would be stunning. But would I want to carry that around? Be slow to work with, cumbersome, not a lot of fun. By the way, I have a 203 f7.7 Hector in here I just got that I really want to do a review on. It's going to be a beautiful lens. Anyway, I'm more likely to carry something like this. Little EP5, it's compact, it's got great image quality, got a lot of features. I can, carry just a few compact lenses with it. This is the kind of thing that I'm going to carry on my vacation. So, for those people that want something better image quality wise or more versatile than a cell phone, but they don't want or need the image quality of a full frame camera and the weight and the size, there's always going to be a certain demand for Micro Four Thirds. And I have to say that these days, the difference between full frame and Micro Four Thirds, while there is a difference, is slight enough that I can create images with Micro Four Thirds and the average person would never know the difference. I mean, cell phones with their tiny sensors create amazing images these days. We all have to admit that. So there's no reason that a Micro Four Thirds size sensor can't perform exceptionally well for most needs. You know, so as an amateur photographer, do I need the extra image quality and all that of a full frame camera? Probably not. You know, and in fact, I shoot 4x5 film cameras, I shoot 35mm film cameras, medium format film cameras, plus I shoot my Micro Four Thirds digital. And the Micro Four Thirds digital takes a back seat to none of that. So I think the image quality with Micro Four Thirds is everything it needs to be. Certainly the newest Micro Four Thirds cameras with their current sensors are just pretty amazing. Now, the other thing I think you have to think about when it comes to these little Micro Four Thirds cameras is the fact that, you know, the camera that you're going to use is the one you have with you. And if carrying around a big cumbersome camera means you leave the camera at home, then what good is it, you know? So if I'm going out and about in the city, I'm going to go to the park with my grandkids, or I'm going to, you know, maybe go to a museum or do something, and I want to carry a camera, I'm not going to carry a big full frame camera with a big heavy lens. I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to leave that at home using my cell phone. But I am more likely to carry something like this. And so I think, like I say, the Micro Four Thirds users should stop comparing themselves to full frame or worrying about any comparison that anyone's making to full frame cameras. Just don't even go there. You have a camera that does an amazing job. It will do so many amazing things, has so many amazing features that I don't think that there's any reason to try to make those comparisons. Like I say, if you're a professional photographer and you need the image quality that full frame, you know, delivers, your business demands that, your customer base demands it, then yes, go buy that equipment. But if you're the kind of person that's wanting to take pictures for fun, you want to be able to take a picture, you know, pictures on vacation, you travel maybe a little bit, you want something that's compact but very capable, man, Micro Four Thirds is just really hard to beat. So anyway, those are some of my thoughts on you know, the future of Micro Four Thirds. I think it has its place. I think it'll continue to have its place, and I think the people that love and enjoy using Micro Four Thirds cameras need to quit worrying about what anyone else is saying about image sensor size or whatever. Go out and enjoy your cameras, take pictures with them, create beautiful stuff, and just enjoy them. So that's kind of where my head is with the future of Micro Four Thirds. I did have kind of one other thought. You know, if you pay attention to the film industry, you probably have observed that film cameras are making a big comeback. So much so that Pentax has announced that they're going to start manufacturing a line of film cameras again. I know that Leica has continued to make a film camera, there may be a couple others, but that's a pretty big thing when you know, Pentax is at one time was bigger than they are now, but they're a major name in photography, and they're going to start making a line of film cameras. They wouldn't do that unless they felt like there was enough market demand for it to make it profitable. So I think that's an interesting statement from a manufacturer that they're going to get into the film camera business. I've heard a few people that use Micro Four Thirds on YouTube say that one of the things they like about Micro Four Thirds is that while yes, it does have maybe a little bit more noise than a full frame camera, that noise looks very much like the grain that you get with film. So some people have said that the images from Micro Four Thirds have more of a film look than fuller or full frame sensors, larger frame sensor cameras. So, you know, and if the look that you enjoy is something that's a little less clinical, a little less, a little more film-like, a little less, perfect than maybe a full frame camera, then maybe the Micro Four Thirds has that advantage too. Certainly I love film cameras. I love the images from film. The grain to me that you get with film is a part of it, and that doesn't bother me. So, a little bit of the noise or grain that I get from Micro Four Thirds has never really been an issue for me. If you've grown up with digital cameras and always sought the cleanest, most perfect image, then you might need to go get a full frame camera, or maybe you need to get a medium format camera, digital camera. But I think that's just something else to think about when it comes to Micro Four Thirds, is that those people that like that film look, it's a way to have that without actually going through the process of having to process film and all that. So something to think about. It's a thought. Anyway, I sure appreciate you watching my videos. If you have any thoughts or comments or questions, I'd hope you'll leave me a comment. I always enjoy it when you guys leave me comments and we can interact. And as always, thanks for watching.